What does your creative practice say about you? What do you say to yourself with your sewing, your painting, your gardening, whatever you do that's creative? Because every single action that you take does say something to yourself. And in this video, we're going to get into what have you been saying. So there's a kind of so there's a fundamental understanding in psychotherapy about that every single action that we take says something to ourselves. Different parts of ourselves perhaps, but it says something to us about who are we, what do we deserve, where do we fit in the world? Some really big questions. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. So what's important to say first is there is no one right way to do this. There is no one right thing to be saying about yourself. There's no one right action. The thing is that if you think about the things that you're doing through this lens, kind of, okay, what am I saying to myself with this choice or with not making this choice? It can help you to get more of what you want. It can help you to move further forwards with feeling happy, with feeling good, as opposed to not feeling good, not feeling happy. So this video was inspired by the comments from my last video. Thank you so much for all the comments that you gave me. They were really inspirational. And I'm going to get into it with sharing two particular comments to begin with that really, really speak to what I'm talking about. I'm going to read this one out to you. I'm 62 years old and I've been... So thank you, Kerry, for this comment. It was really inspirational. I'm 62 years old and I've been sewing since the beginning of lockdown. It kept me occupied when there wasn't much else going on. Last May, I was diagnosed with cancer and it got me through the dark days of chemo. I had surgery, and although it was many weeks before I had the energy to sew, I watched all of my favourite sewing vloggers. Now that I'm getting used to life with an ostomy, I design and make clothes that suit my new lifestyle. I've even designed and made a shoulder bag I can wear under dresses that can hold an extra bag. I can connect up so I can attend my husband's band gigs and don't need to worry about finding a toilet every hour. Creating is in my DNA and it's kept me going. I look forward to see how your channel develops. It's certainly going to be interesting. Thank you very much. And a second comment that's really similar to this. And there were so many comments that were kind of along this line. You guys are amazing. I knew that already. But the things that you have faced and you've used sewing to get past is just so inspirational. So me, my sew and my MS said, hey, sewing is the thing that has seen me through my MS diagnosis, the pandemic, menopause and life generally. And not just mentally, but physically too. Sewing helps me with my MS brain-related fog, dexterity and the ability to concentrate, as well as a welcome distraction to work. I'm lucky enough to work mainly from home. And today, between calls, I adjusted a waistband on a skirt and sewed on some poppers. What's not to love about that? Very true. What I wanted, and I have some other comments to pick out, but what I wanted to pick out with these two comments is how these two amazing women are saying to themselves with their sewing, with the creative things that they're doing, I'm capable. Life might have changed, but I can still do stuff. I still deserve to do things. I'm still able to do things. I can take control of this illness that could have been big and scary and uncontrollable. And my creative practice can be part of how I take control back for my life. And that idea, that way of thinking was echoed throughout so many different comments. So many of you generously shared things that you've been through. And I will link the video down below so you can go and read the comments for yourself. But so many people shared generously things they've been through. And a lot of times it was about how sewing and creativity was allowing you to still feel capable, to still feel like, do you know what? I'm someone who deserves to have some time for myself. I am someone who can do something about this. There have been periods of not sewing in nearly all our lives, I'm sure. I know they have in my life, but I'm still identifying as a person who sews. And for these people who shared their comments, it's all about being able to do something. And to an outsider, it might look like a really small, insignificant thing, but you and me know it's not. It's really big. It's the time when you sit down and you actually do something. And I just loved that in those 2 comments, and I hoped that you would also find it super inspirational. I think that this comment from Jen Campen sums it up perfectly. She said, sewing is very important for many of us with illness and or disability, because we can be creative but at our own pace to keep pressure, stress, energy levels manageable and have something to be proud of at the end of a project. Self-management is something that needs to get more airtime. Oh yes, totally agree. Yeah, I think whether you're facing difficulties in life or whether you're not, our creative practice, and I want you to think about how you use all the creative things that you do, even maybe some of the things you don't currently call creative, like cleaning up the house, like solving problems, like fixing stuff, like making meals. But thinking about the creative stuff that you do and how in our domestic lives we can control the pace at which we do things. I know sometimes life intrudes. I know children, partners, family can intrude on that, but there's always going to be a pocket of somewhere that you can use that you can create some control back for you. This can be where you say what's going to happen. This can be where you say how fast it's going to happen. This can be where you say which direction you're going to take it in. This can be where you say, do you know what, this isn't working out and I'm just going to leave it behind. I'm not going to finish it and I'm going to be okay with that. So thank you, Jen, for that fantastic summary comment. Definitely on board with that. And I'm wondering if people watching also feel the same. There were also other comments that were really inspirational in a different way. They were about the really big questions like, who am I? Where do I fit into the world? Absolutely huge questions that we can sometimes wrestle with. Everybody's thought that sometimes. Let's have a look. 18. So Nancy Pollard shared this fantastic comment. I've been sewing for 30 plus years off and on. I've dabbled in miniature woodworking, creative cooking and gardening, brilliant things. Last year I became seriously ill and had to give it all up for a while. It was kind of soul crushing to create. Who was I? I'm fortunate to have mostly recovered and back to doing the things I love. I just think that it's true. A lot of us use, even if we don't realize it's what we're doing, we use our creative practice to think about, who am I? Well, actually, maybe I do X, Y, and Z for a job. Maybe that's your passion. I hope it is, but it's not for everyone, is it? Sewing and creative practice can be that little pocket of space where you can be who you want to be. You can be the creative person. You can make stuff for yourself. And in the spirit of this video, I want you to deliberately be thinking about, okay, how can I actually have that conversation with myself? And I do literally mean talking to yourself. Maybe not out loud, maybe out loud, but when you next sit down to do your creative practice, whatever it is, just sit down and say, I'm doing this because I want to. I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this. Fill in the end of the sentence that fits your life. I'm doing this because I deserve it. I'm doing this to give me a break from the rest of life. Give yourself a deliberate reason and deliberate label for what this creative practice is doing now. And then you will know what you're saying to yourself with your creativity. You won't be saying something by accident. you will know. There was a bunch of other comments, which I totally relate to. I have been here and there were lots of comments like this, so you are not alone, where people were saying, you know, I struggle to make time for myself to sew. I struggle to give myself permission to sew. I feel guilty when I do that, whether it's sewing or whatever you do creatively. And those kind of headspaces, as I say, totally recognize it in myself, but they are often saying, you don't deserve this. You can't have that. Your life isn't such a place that you get these things. Now, sometimes life does feel like it's doing that to us, but other times it can just be the thing we need to stop and pause and ask ourselves, if this was my best friend, if this was my daughter, my son, my partner, would I say that to them? Would I say, you're not allowed to go and do the thing you love? You can't do that. It's not okay. And I bet you wouldn't speak like that to other people. So have a think about what you're saying to yourself when you don't let yourself do it. Just 5 minutes, you know, maybe life is busy, maybe there is a lot going on. That can be real. But can you have 5 minutes? Can you have a little something? Can you put that in there? Can you talk to yourself that way? Can you give yourself permission? Have a think about it. See if it works for you. There are other times when we ask ourselves big questions like, who am I? And creative stuff can really help speak to that and to help answer who you are. What is the answer to that question for you? Or even building a new version of who am I? Now, Janine Sews, who has a channel on YouTube, if you want to go and check her out, she said, she said, I love to sew and record my YouTube videos, but I'm also feeling that there needs to be something deeper. For me and my sewing practice / channel, that means figuring out who I am now that I'm retired. A huge part of retirement is having time to ponder who we are and the face that we project to the world now that we're no longer what we do for a paycheck. There's a bit of an identity crisis that creeps in. So true. And loads of times of life transitions, becoming a parent, maybe stopping being quite such a hands-on parent as your kids get older, going back to work, finishing work, all those different life transitions, they all bring up that question, who am I? And just think about how your sewing practice or other creative practice, anything creative, make it something for you, but that can start to answer the question. And hopefully the answer to the question is, I am someone who gives myself time to ... I'm someone who can make things. I'm someone who's learning. I'm someone who's developing. I'm someone who's not finished yet. I'm someone who's interested in things. I'm someone who likes to play with fabric. I'm someone who likes to collect fabric. You know, that question, I'm someone ... There's a really powerful exercise I do with clients in therapy quite often, which is a values sorting exercise. Loads of cards, loads of statements that essentially are, I'm someone who, and then lots of ends to that sentence. And we sort them in terms of priority. Comes out different every single time. Of course it does, because we're all different. So your answer to I'm someone who is going to be your unique answer. And here's an important one. It doesn't have to be what you think it is. So you might think at the moment that your answer to who am I is, I'm a retired school teacher. I'm a retired administrator. I'm a retired doctor. That's about someone you were. Now that can still be part of your identity, but how about now? What's happening now? You know, even if I said I'm a psychotherapist, okay, and that is a big part of my identity, but how about my creative practice? That's in addition, that's another layer of me, because I have lots of layers. I'm a complicated person. I'm an interesting person. I'm a person who has depth. So are you. And your creative practice can be part of the place where you answer all those questions. This isn't about who are you for other people. There will be places in your life where you are things for other people, I know. But this is about who are you for you? What do you want to say to yourself about who you are? And how can all the things that you make and all the things that you dream about making because being a dreamer is part of an identity too, and it's a great one. How do they fit into who you are? And do you like that? And if you're not sure you like it, how are you going to change it? Well, you can tell yourself something different about your creative practice. You can move it in a different direction. Maybe you sew everything for everyone else. Do you want to be someone who does that? Yes or no? Work it out for yourself. It's a really powerful question. And I want to, with this whole video, as you will have guessed, raise your awareness of how we can do this. Everything we do is speaking to ourselves about who we are. So just think about, what are you saying? And I'm going to finish this video because I have used your wonderful comments through the whole video. I'm going to finish this video with a really brilliant comment from Mountain1666, from Mountain1666. And she said, what a great journey you've opened up for all of us. Thank you. I've used sewing through a lot of emotions, but one thing I want to share is when I used it to validate myself. Yes. It's when I've been on sick leave several times and I say, if I can sew one seam today or thread the machine so I can sew tomorrow, then I have achieved something that I feel great about. It's such a big part of keeping my self-worth. Yeah, says it all. The most powerful thing we often say with our creativity is, maybe the rest of the world is however the rest of the world is, but I can still do this. I can still pick up my embroidery. I can still pick up my knitting. Maybe I can't, so maybe I can plan. Maybe I can remember the knitting I've done. Maybe I can enjoy the projects I've already achieved. Maybe I can enjoy other people's. There are so many ways you can do it. I don't care what your answer is, but just see, you can use your creativity to validate yourself. And I really want to give yourself permission to do that, to think about it in selfish ways, to think about it in really self-fulfilling ways. And share with me in the comments down below. I want to hear from you. How does it feel when you say, I made this? Whether you say that to yourself or whether you say that to other people, what does that feel like? I would love for you to share in the comments down below. So thank you very much for watching. I hope this video spoke to you. If you've got any ideas of other things you would like to hear me talk about in terms of creativity and mental health, please comment or please email me. My email address will be on the bottom right now. And I will see you in the next video really soon. Bye.